Back to reality, my friends. This is what we're used to. And I'm smiling, but it's only because I don't want to cry. Today was straight up ugly. The game, the loss, the weather, the special teams, the whole damn thing.
I take ownership for not being able to put points on the board. It all starts with me and ends with me.
But this Philadelphia loss is right there, in my opinion, because they had no business losing this ball game at all. And we gave them grace the entire season because of the talent. When you talk about the inefficiencies on the offensive side, we all felt like, well, they can get it right.
I think it's tough to single out one individual, you know, especially in a moment like this. We all got to improve, and that's how.
It was lifeless. It was gutless. It was heartless. It was just less, everything.
Jalen Hurts is breaking the internet right now, and it's not because of what he did on the field. It's because of what he said after one of the most humiliating playoff losses in recent Eagles history. And folks, we need to break this down because what's happening right now is way more complicated than a simple post-game press conference. The Philadelphia Eagles just lost 23-19 at home to the San Francisco 49ers. And before you say, okay, the 49ers are a good team, that happens, hold on. Let me give you the context that makes this absolutely stunning. The 49ers won this game without Nick Bosa, without Fred Warner, without Brandon Ayuk, without George Kittle, who tore his Achilles in the first half. The 49ers were playing their 5th, 6th, and 7th string linebackers. We're talking about guys who were literally on couches a few weeks ago, practice squad players that most fans have never heard of, and they still dominated. Eric Kendricks, you know who that is? A 33-year-old linebacker the Dallas Cowboys dumped because they thought he was washed, finished, done. The 49ers pulled him off the couch and said, "We got nothing else." And what did Eric Kendricks do? 10 tackles, game-saving pass breakup on the final play. A Cowboys cast-off just ended Philadelphia's season. That's the context. That's what makes this post-game situation so explosive. Because when Jalen Hurts walked up to that podium, cameras flashing, reporters ready to tear into this disaster, everyone expected something. Anger, frustration, accountability for the people who actually deserve it. Instead, we got this. I take ownership for not being able to put points on the board. It all starts with me and ends with me. And on the surface, that sounds amazing, right? That's leadership. That's a franchise quarterback protecting his guys, taking the heat, being the adult in the room. Except is it? Because here's where this gets really interesting. While Hurts is falling on the sword, taking all the blame, protecting everyone around him, the actual problems in Philadelphia are getting swept under the rug like dirt at a crime scene. Let me walk you through what actually happened in this game, because the numbers tell a story that Jalen Hurts' press conference is trying to hide. The Eagles scored 19 points, 19, against a defense missing multiple All-Pros. The Eagles, with the most expensive offense in the NFL with Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, all that talent, mustered 119 yards total in the second half. 119 yards in an entire half of playoff football. Kevin Patalo is the offensive coordinator. This man just orchestrated one of the most pathetic offensive performances in playoff history. And when reporters asked Hurts directly about Patalo, about whether that relationship has a future, you know what he said. I think it's tough to single out one individual, especially in a moment like this. We all got to improve, and that's how I look at everything that we go through. Hold up, wait. You're taking all the blame for yourself, but you can't address the coordinator who's been running a scheme so basic that opposing defenses were literally laughing about it. We heard multiple teams after they played the Philadelphia Eagles say, "It's right there in front of you." Basic, predictable, elementary. Multiple teams this season said after playing Philly that the offense was simple to defend. That's not a Jalen Hurts execution problem. That's a design flaw. That's coaching. But Hurts won't say it. He's protecting everyone, taking the arrows, being the good soldier. And you know what? Part of me respects it. Part of me sees a leader trying to keep the locker room together, trying to prevent the complete implosion that's clearly coming. But the other part, the part that watched this game, that part is screaming. Because while Hurts is being diplomatic, while he's playing politician at the podium, the real dysfunction in Philadelphia is festering like an infected wound. Let's talk about what actually went wrong on the field, because this is important context. 3rd and 5, second half, ball hits A.J. Brown right in the hands. Dropped. Later in the game, crucial fourth quarter moment, Devonta Smith, another elite receiver, ball in both hands. Dropped. Saquon Barkley, massive moment, ball in his hands. Dropped. These weren't Jalen Hurts failures. These were Pro Bowl level players not making plays when it mattered most. But when asked about it, Hurts said, "Yeah, we just didn't make the plays, that's it. We just didn't make the plays." No elaboration, no specifics, just blanket coverage for everyone. And here's what's driving people absolutely crazy about this. Is Hurts being a great teammate, or is he enabling a toxic culture? Because let me tell you what we saw on that sideline. Nick Sirianni, the head coach, arguing with A.J. Brown on national television. In the middle of a playoff game, that's not a small thing, that's not normal frustration, that's dysfunction spilling out for everyone to see. And according to reports that have been circulating, Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown have had tension for years. There was an off-field incident, a personal clash that people thought they had resolved, but from what we've been hearing, it's something you never quite get over. The reporting suggests they just don't like each other. Not hate, but they don't enjoy playing together. The franchise quarterback and the number 1 receiver don't mesh, and it's been visible all year. Targets, catches, body language, pouting, complaining, and in the biggest moment of the season, A.J. Brown drops a crucial pass. But Hurts takes the blame, all of it. CBS analyst Jonathan Jones said something after this game that should make every Eagles fan's blood run cold. He said, "They did not keep their issues in-house. It spilled out for everyone to see, and there was a lot of dirty laundry that was out there. And just imagine what we heard and what we saw this season. Imagine what we didn't hear and what we didn't see." Read between those lines. The stuff we saw was bad enough. The sideline arguments, the dropped passes, the body language, the friction, but what we didn't see, that's the scary part. This is a team that won the Super Bowl the previous year with Kellen Moore as offensive coordinator. Same talent, same weapons, different coordinator, different results. They put up points against the Kansas City Chiefs defense in the Super Bowl. They had one of the most explosive offenses in football. So you have to wonder, when they did it with Kellen Moore, who's now the New Orleans Saints head coach, why isn't it working with Kevin Patalo? That's the question Hurts won't answer. That's the question he's actively avoiding. And when you watch that press conference, when you see him deflecting, protecting, taking blame for things that objectively weren't his fault, you have to ask, what is he really doing here? Let me give you Jalen Hurts' actual stats from this game. 168 yards passing, 20 of 35, 2 interceptions. Now those interceptions, both of them were actually great plays by the 49ers defense. Diamador Lenoir and Quinion Mitchell made excellent plays. These weren't terrible decisions by Hurts. These were quality defensive plays. You know who else threw 2 interceptions in this game? Brock Purdy, 2 picks, great plays by the Eagles defense. And you know what the Eagles scored off those 2 turnovers? 3 points, 3. The 49ers turned the ball over twice and still won because they have Kyle Shanahan. They have a system. They have coaching that adapts and adjusts. What do the Eagles have? Talent that can't execute, receivers dropping balls, a basic offensive scheme that everyone in the league has figured out, and a quarterback who won't call anyone out. Bryant McFadden, 2-time Super Bowl champion, said it perfectly. They had no business losing this ball game at all. And we gave them grace the entire season because of the talent. No business losing, none. Kyle Shanahan outcoached Nick Sirianni so badly it should be studied in coaching clinics. The 49ers ran a trick play, Jauan Jennings throwing a touchdown to Christian McCaffrey that completely changed the momentum of the game. In critical moments, knowing when to go to that trick play, knowing the situation, knowing your players will execute, that's coaching. Great coaches make adjustments. Great coaches put their players in position to succeed. What did Kevin Patalo do? Run the same predictable offense that's been failing for months. And Jalen Hurts protected him, protected everyone. When asked about what went wrong, Hurts said, "It's not on any individual, it's on us as a unit." Really, the offensive coordinator who can't scheme guys open isn't responsible. The receivers dropping crucial passes aren't responsible. The head coach arguing with his star receiver on national television isn't responsible. It's everyone's fault, which means it's no one's fault. And that's the problem with what Hurts is doing here. That's why this is going viral. That's why people are divided. Because on one hand, you've got people saying this is what leadership looks like. This is a man protecting his teammates, keeping things in-house, preventing complete chaos. But on the other hand, you've got people screaming, this is enabling. This is allowing dysfunction to continue. This is sweeping problems under the rug instead of addressing them. Both sides have a point. Here's what we know for certain, based on what we've seen publicly. The Eagles' offense has struggled all season. The passing scheme has been called basic by multiple opponents. The relationship between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown appears fractured based on body language and sideline incidents. And Kevin Patalo's system clearly isn't working with this personnel. And Jalen Hurts just stood at that podium and said, "It's all on me." Is that noble or is that a problem? When Jonathan Jones talked about this being Kyle Shanahan's best coaching job, he said something really profound. He called it Shanahan's best work regardless of Super Bowls because of what the 49ers had lost. Maximizing limited talent, getting practice squad players to execute at a high level, making something out of nothing, that's coaching. The Eagles had everything: home field advantage, better roster on paper, rest advantage. Everything was set up for them to win, and they failed. And their quarterback won't point fingers. Hurts said, "I think winning is hard. Nothing about it is easy, especially when you're trying to repeat. Everything was clear for us and what we wanted to accomplish this year, and we came up short. Winning is hard, repeating is difficult, but you know what makes it harder? Not addressing the real problems, not holding people accountable, not making the tough calls." The 49ers lost George Kittle in the first half, their best offensive weapon. Torn Achilles, season over. You know what Kyle Shanahan's mentality was? It hasn't mattered what you throw in our face. We're going to find a way to go out there and play good football. They found a way with backups, with practice squad players, with guys signed off the street. The Eagles couldn't find a way with Pro Bowlers. That's coaching, that's culture, that's the difference. And Jalen Hurts is trying to protect a culture that appears broken by taking all the blame himself. The internet is exploding because people can't figure out if that makes him a great leader or part of the problem. Here's my perspective: you can be both. You can be a good teammate who protects people and simultaneously be enabling dysfunction. Those things aren't mutually exclusive. Hurts clearly cares about his guys. He doesn't want to throw anyone under the bus. He's trying to keep the locker room together in the face of what's about to be a brutal offseason. But at some point, leadership means more than just taking blame. It means addressing real issues. It means having tough conversations. It means demanding better from the people around you. Hurts said it takes everyone being honest with themselves and challenging themselves to grow from it. Everyone being honest, everyone. That includes the coaching staff, that includes the receivers, that includes the front office, but Hurts won't specifically call that out. He can't or he won't. And that's what's driving people crazy, because we all watched A.J. Brown drop that pass. We all saw the sideline argument. We all know the offense was predictable and basic for months. We all watched this unfold in real time. And Hurts is standing there saying, "It's all on me." No, Jalen, it's not all on you. Some of it, sure, you're the quarterback, the buck stops with you in certain ways, but all of it, that's not accountability, that's deflection disguised as leadership. The Eagles just wasted what might have been their best championship window. They had everything set up perfectly, and they got embarrassed at home by a team held together with duct tape. 19 points at home in the playoffs with that roster, that's unacceptable by any standard. And as Jalen Hurts goes viral for his noble-sounding quotes about taking ownership, the real questions remain completely unanswered. Will Kevin Patalo be back next season? Will A.J. Brown be traded? Will the scheme change? Will anyone actually be held accountable for this performance? Or will everyone just learn and grow from this and run it back next year with the same broken pieces? That's what we don't know. That's what Hurts won't tell us, or maybe can't tell us. And that's why this is going viral. Because in an era where everyone is starving for authenticity, for real accountability, for someone to just be honest about what went wrong, Jalen Hurts gave us corporate speak. He protected everyone, took all the blame. And we can't figure out if that makes him a hero or part of the problem. Let me give you both sides of this debate because I think it's important to understand why people are so split on this. The people defending Hurts would say, look, this is a man who understands that airing dirty laundry publicly only makes things worse. He's trying to keep the locker room together. He's preventing the complete meltdown that would happen if he started throwing coaches and teammates under the bus. He's being the adult in the room. He's protecting relationships that need to survive into next season. And you know what? That's a legitimate perspective. There's value in not publicly destroying your teammates and coaches. There's value in trying to maintain some semblance of unity when everything is falling apart. But the people criticizing Hurts would say, this is enabling, this is allowing bad coaching to continue. This is protecting people who don't deserve protection. Real leadership sometimes means having uncomfortable conversations publicly. Real accountability means calling out what actually went wrong, not just taking generic blame. And that's also legitimate, because if no one is specifically held accountable, if everything is everyone's fault, then nothing changes. The same people make the same mistakes next year. So which side is right? Maybe both, maybe neither. That's what makes this so compelling. What we can say for certain is this: the Eagles' offense was broken all season. Multiple opponents said it was easy to defend. The scheme was predictable, and when it mattered most in a playoff game at home, they couldn't score enough points against a severely depleted defense. That's a coaching problem first and foremost. Kevin Patalo's system clearly wasn't working. Whether that's because of his play calling, his scheme design, his inability to adapt, or something else, the results speak for themselves. But there were also execution problems. Pro Bowl receivers dropped crucial passes, the offensive line had protection breakdowns, players made mistakes at critical moments. So yes, it's a collective failure, but collective failures still have individual components that need to be addressed separately. And from what we saw in that press conference, Jalen Hurts isn't interested in separating those components. He's lumping everything together, taking all of it on himself and moving forward. Is that wise? Is that leadership? Or is that avoidance? The answer probably depends on what happens next. If the Eagles make real changes this offseason, if they address the coaching issues, if they fix the offensive scheme, if they repair the fractured relationships, then maybe Hurts' approach was the right one. Maybe keeping things calm in the immediate aftermath allowed for better decision-making later. But if nothing changes, if Patalo comes back, if the same problems persist next season, then Hurts' press conference will look less like leadership and more like enabling a dysfunctional culture. The thing that keeps coming back to me is what Jonathan Jones said about the dirty laundry, about how what we saw publicly was bad enough, but imagine what we didn't see. That's chilling because what we saw was pretty ugly: sideline arguments, visible tension, dropped passes in crucial moments, a completely ineffective offensive game plan. If that's the stuff that made it onto television, what's happening behind closed doors? And is Jalen Hurts' diplomatic approach helping to resolve those issues, or is it allowing them to fester? We don't know, and that uncertainty is part of what's making this story so viral. People are fascinated by the tension between being a good teammate and being honest about problems. They're fascinated by the question of whether taking all the blame is noble or whether it's actually avoiding the hard conversations that need to happen. This isn't a simple story. This isn't just quarterback protects teammates, everyone loves him. There are layers here. There's complexity. There's genuine disagreement about whether Hurts is handling this correctly. And the stakes are massive. We're talking about a franchise that just won a Super Bowl, that has championship-level talent, that should be competing for titles for years to come. But if the dysfunction continues, if the problems aren't addressed, if the culture remains broken, all that talent means nothing. The 49ers proved that in this game. They had significantly less talent on the field. They were missing their best players. They were playing guys who weren't even on rosters a month ago. And they won because they had better coaching, better schemes, better culture. Talent alone doesn't win championships. The Eagles learned that the hard way. So now the question becomes, what does Philadelphia do with this information? How do they respond to this humiliation? And more specifically, what role does Jalen Hurts play in that response? If he continues to take all the blame, continues to protect everyone, continues to avoid the specific accountability that certain people deserve, does that help or hurt the team's ability to fix what's broken? I don't have the answer to that. I don't think anyone does right now. What I do know is this: the internet can't stop talking about it. Twitter is exploding. Reddit is debating. YouTube comments are going crazy. Everyone has an opinion on whether Jalen Hurts is a great leader or whether he's enabling dysfunction. And that debate isn't going away anytime soon, because this isn't just about one press conference. This is about how you handle failure. This is about what accountability looks like. This is about the difference between protecting your teammates and protecting a broken system. The Eagles' season is over, done, finished. One of the most embarrassing playoff losses in recent memory, at home, against a team that had no business winning based on talent alone. And the face of the franchise stood at the podium and said, "It's all on me." The internet has spoken, the debate is raging, people are split right down the middle. And honestly, that might be the most interesting part of all of this, because usually when something like this happens, there's a consensus. People either all support the player or all criticize him, but with Hurts, it's genuinely divided. Half the people watching think he's showing incredible leadership. The other half think he's avoiding accountability, and both sides have legitimate points. So what happens next? That's what everyone wants to know. Does Philadelphia clean house? Do they fire Patolo? Do they trade A.J. Brown? Do they run it back with the same group and hope things improve? And what does Jalen Hurts do if those changes don't happen? Does he continue to protect everyone, or does he eventually speak up about the real problems? We're about to find out. This offseason in Philadelphia is going to be messy. Changes are coming, they have to be. You don't lose like this and just pretend everything is fine. And when those changes happen, when decisions get made, we'll see if Jalen Hurts' post-game diplomacy was wisdom or weakness.